Byju's Super Kids UAE, powered by Habitat School, supported by Tongchu Technology. So let's move to the next contestant. Her name is Catherine Jaboy Waggis. Shatter the silence. Shatter the silence, Catherine Jaboy Waggis.
Hello there. How are you all? Now, why don't we start with something different? Let's start off with horror stories. So, I'm very sure that some of you would love to watch horror movies, right? Ghosts, jump scares, and you'll be scared, you'll be closing your eyes, right? Now, do you know there are some sentences that scare me more than horror stories do? I generally refer to these sentences as the shortest horror stories. But the thing is that these sentences are commonly heard. Shocking, isn't it? Now let me give you some examples of these sentences. These are sentences like he or she died by suicide. Or it can also be that a teenager ended his own life. I don't know if it scares you as much as it scares me, but suicides are a serious issue. Let me tell you about someone who tried to end his life by jumping off from the Golden Gate Bridge. Kevin Hines was 19 at that time. He was suffering from depression and bipolar disorder. He just had one motive, and that was to end his life. So what he did was he got onto a bus that was driving off to the Golden Gate Bridge. And I remember him saying this clearly, that as soon as he got onto the bus, he just wanted to walk up to the bus driver and talk about what he was feeling. But the voice in his head kept on screaming that this should be a secret. You must die. You are not supposed to live. He went back to the last seat. He sat down, crying, and he was crying his eyes out, hoping that there would be one individual on that bus who would actually go up to him and be like, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? And I also remember him saying that there was this man on the same bus who pointed at him and said, what is wrong with this kid? At that moment, he thought, it is what it is. Nobody cared. When it was nothing like that. Everyone did. His family members did, his friends did, everyone he knew did care about him. So as soon as the bus stopped, he got off the bus, ran, and threw himself right off the rail. Now the most important part is that as soon as his hands left the rail, instant regrets hit him. He started thinking, why did I do this? I don't want to die. I want to live. But then his body hit the water, and this vacuum pulled it right beneath. He wanted to survive, but then it was a bit late. His vertebrae was shattered, his legs were immobile. He broke the surface, as at that time he had one motive, and that was to survive. But he was still skeptical about the fact that if he would ever make it out alive. So he bobbed up and down on the water surface. And right at that very second, he felt something circling him. And this thing kept on getting faster and faster. At first he thought it was a shark, and he tried to punch it. But then there was no shark. It was a sea lion which kept him afloat until the rescue boats arrived to rescue him. He survived, and he is one of the very few people who actually survived the fall from the Golden Gate Bridge. Kevin Hines is a suicide prevention activist. Suicides are very real. We can't be silent about it and expect it to just vanish. There will be one moment where we have to decide whether to be silent about it or to speak up. Suicide is a terrible killer of young. Families of suicide victims face a lot of criticisms. It is your fault. It is your fault that your son actually died by suicide. they have a lot of regrets too. Now, how many of you at this point think that people who are suicidal should have probably talked about what they were feeling? I know that most of you do think so. But the thing is, when people, especially teenagers who express their feelings, when they do that, they are generally ignored. And I'm sorry to say that. That parents would either be like ignoring them, of course, or they would say that you have a roof over your head, you get food every day, and now you're here telling me that you're suicidal? I don't want to hear this again. This is what they generally say. Now you tell me, when people brace themselves to just get in front of someone and talk about it, and their loved ones are ignoring them instead of supporting them, how are they supposed to express themselves? Jason Reed is a father who lost his son Ryan to suicide. There were times when Ryan actually used to go up to him and be like, "Dad, we need to talk. I have something very important to tell you." But then his father was a bit too busy. And he regrets the fact that he did not communicate enough with Ryan, and he also did not ask him enough questions. As no one knows, none of us know if those were the moments when Ryan actually wanted to express his feelings. So you see, neglecting emotions can also lead to suicides. We are always taught about how to get good grades. We are taught to always be disciplined. We're taught to get a job, but we are never taught to deal with depression. We are never taught how to be happy, how to live in a state of happiness. And that's where parents go wrong. Suicides are very bad. Raising an awareness about suicides are not enough. And you have to agree with me on this fact that suicides and depression have been so stigmatized, and they are considered as a taboo topic by our society, and people who actually suffer from it believe they are crazy. As I already said, raising an awareness about suicides is not enough. We need to prevent it. And how do we do that? Reach out. Talk to those people. Talk to them who you feel are at a risk of harming themselves. I assure you, just by asking them, "Hey, are you okay?" or "I'm going to be there for you," you can actually save lives. 800,000 people die by suicide each year, which is roughly one death every 40 seconds. So reach out, talk about it, but most importantly, shatter the silence. Lastly, I just want to remind you all that there is always a rainbow on the other side. But to see it, we must brave the storm. Thank you so much.
Aisha Shifa C. Farooq, Unraveling the Reading Magic. Unraveling the Reading Magic, Aisha Shifa C. Farooq.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all can hear me. I'm Aisha Shifa C. Farooq, as she said, a student learning in grade 8. I can see all of you looking at me now. There's a guy there outside. He's sitting there on his chair. He's thinking something. He's not in the crowd. And there are 3 judges sitting here. One of them is looking too much onto her phone. Both of them are. The other judge is smiling at me. His name is Shabil Umar. You know why I remember his name? Because for the round 1, we had a meeting. He was speaking about the importance of communication. I kept listening to him. How was he speaking? But that wasn't my main concern. He was sitting in front of books. Behind him were a lot of books. I tried to decipher the names. Do I know them? That was where I was focused all along. He was speaking about communications, the most important factor that the world today is armed with. We have a man there. He's there. He has a lot of speakers behind him. He has a laptop. It's an HP. We have parents sitting there. There is a girl who talked about kindness, a girl who's going to talk about hope. There was a girl who talked about dreamers. I'm a dreamer. I have hope, and I hope that I'm kind. There was a color girl. She brought memories along with her to share on this stage. But why am I here? To tell my story. I was a girl, just a girl. I didn't go to competitions. I'm not a basketball player. I haven't got 99% asset, which I congratulate her for. It's a huge achievement. But I am a reader, and a reader is everything for me. It was about 3 years ago when I went out to a bookstore in my native place in India. Now, this bookstore, it has 3 shelves, not a huge library or a big bookstore, just 3 shelves. I came here for my daily reads. It's once a year that I buy books. 3 times a year I buy books. The rest I get from my school. The books that I took from there, they had a lot of pictures. I liked it. But then something in me told me to keep going. So I took a step forward, I took one more. I looked to my side. There was a shelf. It had only 2 books, not 4, only 2 books. I don't know why I stopped there, but then the voice in me told me again, turn there, pick a book from the shelf. I hate books without pictures. I looked into the shelf, I picked up a book. It was thin, this much. Must have about 200 pages. I have heard of this book before. It had green, its cover was green. But in golden above it, magically it was written, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I didn't know what would happen when I picked that book up off the shelf. But I guess some part of me wanted to pick it up. I did. I went to my dad, told him, I need this book. He bought me those 3 that I took and this book too. It must have been around 2000 budget rupees. And of course, I had to read this book. I went home and every time before I sleep, I take up a book. I took up this book. My language, my vocabulary is very bad. I didn't understand what the summary said. I basically thought it was totally boring. I took up the book. I did take it. I flashed through the pages. The first chapter was The Worst Birthday. Harry Potter's birthday was on July 31st. Or maybe 30th. I don't know, because I don't know anything about Harry Potter. I just knew that he was very famous. Written by J.K. Rowling. I took down the book, I started reading. It took me a few nights to get through it. But at the end, the night I finished the book, I was scared if the basilisk would come out of my bathroom. But come on, I had to be strong. I stood up from my bed. It was 2 a.m. in the morning, an estimation, approximately maybe. I went, I switched off the lights. When I was sleeping, I had 3 thoughts in my head. 1, this book I've read, it has changed me. 2, this book will always be mine. It will always be there on the shelf. It will always hold my soul. 3, this wouldn't be my last. It was true, I went back to school, I told my friends about it, I made them read it. It took me about half a year to get through all these 8 books. And I was mad about Harry Potter next. I started telling everyone I knew, read and read. Why? The question always came, what will reading give you? A lot of hope, kindness. Maybe it will make you a dreamer, but I didn't care. I don't know why. I never cared about reading. But that moment after I read the book, I started caring. I started seeing the wrongs and rights in the world. I started being a person who I thought I would be, who I was dreamed of. I wasn't a great girl. I wasn't a great student. I hated studying. I still remember writing my answers on the pillow so I could answer my mom when she asked me. When I started loving everything I saw, I started making a lot of friends. I started knowing what it is to be strong in the most weak position. That's all reading will give you. It gives you everything when you are a no one, a nobody. It will start giving you an identity. It will make you someone who you always dreamed of. Everyone is a dreamer. And I hope a reader is a leader, and I do hope that all of you get this. No matter what, when you read, you lead your dreams, your aspirations. Thank you.
Ready. So let's move to the next contestant. She's Aisha Afzal. Hope. Hope. Aisha Afzal.
Let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future. These words by Robert H. Sculler, doesn't it tell us something? Hope is an essence of life, and many of us could not be where we are today if we didn't have that hope deep in our hearts. And it is necessary for each and every one of us because we realize the great truth and it takes us one step forward to attaining what we desire. Because life is unpredictable, difficult, and very notorious at times. The realms of the past, present, and future is not something we have a reign over. But this hope helps us keep the battle on, and it progresses the chances of making our life way better. You can fight it if you have hope. You might not win, but if you have that hope, you won't lose either. There will be times where you want to give up, when you think that I can't do this anymore, but only later on you will realize that if you have given up back then, if you've lost hope back then you would have lost a lot. Let me tell you about this time when I came to grade 3 in Dubai, my first examination. I was not really happy with the results. But my mother, she neither got mad at me, nor she persuaded me to study more. Instead, she showed me those trophies in our showcase, which she had gotten for her finals as the school's topper. And you know what's the most interesting part? She couldn't attend 40 days of classes prior to these exams, and she even attended summer exams with a huge cast on her leg. For she had been involved in an accident right before these exams. And to this day, every time I look at those shining trophies, not that shining since it was 15 years ago, but still, whenever I look at those trophies, I can see it smile and I can hear it say, I am a result of hope. Now, the first thing that comes to one's mind when the word hope is uttered is about the UAE space orbiter. Impossible is possible, the Hope mission. Well, why was it named Hope? Well, according to Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the name Hope sends a message of optimism to millions of young Arabs around the world. And I 100% believe that the success of the space mission comes with the formula hard work plus hope. And you should know the power of hope because things can start to suffer in the beginning, but then comes the best. Take King Mandela, Abraham, or even the young heroine Malala from Pakistan. They've all went through hard times, but they didn't lose hope, did they? Let me tell you about this time. There were 4 candles. The candles of love, peace, faith, and hope. The candles of love, peace, and faith believe that in today's world, which is filled with agony, deceit, and hatred everywhere, that they're not needed anymore. So they decide to get extinguished. No love, no faith, no peace. But if your hope candle is still burning, it has the power to relight all other 3 candles. When everything looks bad and there is darkness all around, keep your hope candles burning. For it has so much power that it can give you back everything you've lost. So let's keep our hope candle burning. Let's say in my right hand I have someone with hope, while on my left hand I have someone who is hopeless. So the person on my left hand says, why am I doing this? I know I'm going to fail anyway. Why just not give up? Why wait and suffer? And so he gives up. While the person on my right hand says, I don't want to give up now. I've waited all this long, not for nothing. I will emerge like the ashes of a phoenix, but I know I can find it. I have hope. And you might not see the difference between the two at first glance, but you will see the person on my right rising, solely because he is hopeful. And soon, before he knows it, he would have found it. He would have found the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's when the person on my left regrets. He wished he'd wait a little longer. Dear listeners, know that these dark skies can be bright ones. Know that your sad tears can be happy ones. Know that you will achieve everything with a pinch of hope. Hope is something you have in you, and what you have to do is befriend it. Make it your best friend. Here are some lines in my words what I think hope would tell you. Walk my way. Take my hand. Let me take your tears away. Let me make you smile. Make you fly a kite. Let me teach you how to fight. Because I've seen you go through this all these times. Life gives you lemons and some limes. So if you want to squeeze it all away, let me be with you every day. Do not lose hope, because hope heals you, holds you, and helps you. Dear listeners, allow me to conclude my speech with a short poem by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with the feathers that preaches in the soul, that sings the tune without the words, and never, never stops at all. Thank you.